Y'all's the hate on all of my moves, but now niggas on it. Y'all used to bait me on me and my views, but now niggas on it. I used to tell them I'ma have me a show, but now niggas on it. Her homies on it. Your homies on it. Y'all's the hate on all of my moves, but now niggas on it. Y'all used to debate me on me and my views, but now niggas on it. I used to tell them I had me a show, but now niggas on it. Her homies on it. Your homies on it.
What up? We back. The realest podcast ever. It's your boy, Chad Fain.
I'm a symbol. Y'all know what's up, man.
At TRPE Nation, we got a treat for y'all today.
Wait. What in the hell is that?
It's an iPad.
Oh,
have you never seen one? Come on, what is that? Steve Jobs, have you heard of him? Tim Cook.
I just happened to look to the right. I'm like, what the?
Yeah, no, the phone, it looks bad on camera.
I give you that.
Like, so
right.
It's like a better point of reference. I can see, you know what I'm saying? I look like I'm actually doing, yeah, you gotta.
Big time now.
You gotta act like it. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna bring I got games. I'm gonna
bring a PSP.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring that down though.
TRP Nation, we got a treat for y'all today. We are reporting live from the Sixers headquarters on the beautiful Camden waterfront. Today's guest is a native Philadelphian, an executive, and a former collegiate athlete. His commitment to civics, youth development, and community advancement led to his role as the deputy director for the Community Engagement and Communications for Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney's Rebuild Initiative, which is a program with more than $400 million investment with the goal of revitalizing community spaces and low-income neighborhoods and promoting economic opportunity for those communities. In his role now as Chief of Diversity and Impact for Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment, he wears a number of hats, including steering the company's Racial Equity and Action Plan, which includes a $20 million internal and external commitment from HBSC to combat systemic racism and champion equality. TRP Nation, start clapping right now. Friend to the show, someone affectionately known as DG, Dave Gould.
Appreciate y'all. That was a hell of a...
Hey, man.
Listen. I listen to some shows.
Edelman wasn't lying. Like, I need to take y'all with me right now.
One of my intros just made somebody's album. We interviewed a rapper. We interviewed Tone Trump. He put it the intro to his album that's coming out next week.
Man, you got a little side gig on it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Listen to some of these other shows and they intro a guest, it'd be like, yo.
What up, nigga?
What up, nigga? Yeah, it'd be crazy.
Yeah, it'd be a little bit rough, man. But we did an interview about 75 or 80 so days ago or whatever with the other Dave, Dave Edelman. He actually just popped in
Literally
here before we started. He heard we was in the building, came to see us. That's our guy. And I really wanted to do this interview with you as a follow-up to tell your story, also talk about company stuff or whatever, and talk about like the intersectionality between like corporate citizenship, community, and diversity, and how they all counteract and interbalance themselves, and how your prior life kind of led you to what you're doing now in this role.
Can I start with something real quick?
Yeah.
After the last show we did with David Edelman, I got no less than like 15 people who listened to the interview and I was like, yo, who is DG?
Yeah.
Who's DG to Kevin? Who's DG? Like literally people.
Yeah, we left some Easter eggs in
I
there.
don't think my name's been dropped so many times.
Yo, literally so many people like, yo, who is DG? Who is DG? Who's there? I'm like, it's Dave Gould, Chief Diversity. Don't just say that.
It's coming. Just
Hashtag we working.
Yeah.
But I think that you're a really amazing example of how an ex-hooper can transition into professional world and really land on their feet. And digging into your story, it basically showed me, you're doing amazing work that needs to be championed, and we need to tell your story while also telling the company's story, because there's a lot of things happening, around HBSC and the Sixers in general. I did some deep research. I'm gonna start you off with like an icebreaker. Some stuff you can't find on the internet, but I have my sources.
Talking about how small Philly is, man.
I know you went to Germantown Friends, University of Rochester. And I heard a rumor that I need you to confirm or deny. You played on Allen Iverson's AAU team that was coached by Q Gaskins. Is that true?
That is correct. Q's my old head. Yeah, and it's funny because I hadn't. We're just talking about how small Philly is. I played on Q's team. I played on two AU teams in high school. I played on the Raiders, which was AI's team that Q Q coached. Shout out to Q. For folks who don't know, Q was really like made his name. He was AI's Reebok rep back in the day.
He's like the lifestyle ambassador or whatever.
Yeah, for Reebok, and then and now he's the president or executive director of Think 450, which is like the brand and marketing arm for the NBA Players Association.
Amazing.
And then the other AU team I played for was the Hunting Park Warriors, and one of my teammates on the Warriors was actually Marcus Morris, who is now on the team.
Now a Sixer. Yeah.
And I hadn't seen Marcus probably in like 15, 20 years before he came back over here. But it's just crazy how small Philly is.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I'm working here, and, Q's name rings bells in this building because all this time with AI.
Right.
So it's just crazy how small the city is.
Yeah, we literally talked about that before we cut the mics on, before we cut the cameras on. Like, literally, like, we just had like pretty much like a pre-show powwow. We had the owner of Local Artisan Foods here dropped us off some care packages and stuff. And just in like a 3-minute conversation, we connected how everybody knew everybody and, and put the whole picture together just like that.
I mean, what year were you playing AAU with AI?
No, not with AI. With AI's AAU team. So AI was on the Sixers. This is probably like
listen, because I'm listening to it like it's AI's 40. There's no way.
No, AI's more than AI. Well, I'm not gonna say all AI.
But
I'm 34.
No,
so
I
was like 16,
no
17
way.
time.
You was playing without
Nah.
Yeah, all right, that makes sense now.
AI was on it. Like I had braids back in the day. Because of AI, because that's the era I grew up in, right? When AI was on the Sixers.
I used to go to the girl with pictures of Allen Iverson, like, give me these. Mm-hmm. I want to look like AI. She's like, you didn't get a picture of one.
Let me get these back.
I know I got AI. It's like, shut up and bring my hair like
10 straight backs. That's shit. Like, let's just keep it. Let's stay focused.
Yeah, everybody had braids.
So what was the there's the AAU basketball experience has become way more pronounced in recent years, and there's TV shows about it, like Kevin Durant show, for good and bad. We got Kevin Durant show. They just recently did a documentary on Showtime about all of the different AAU teams and the coaches and all of the basketball players that came out of PG County. Yeah. What was your AAU experience like? And what was this? Probably like 12, 15 years ago? Maybe?
No, more than that. I was like, damn.
I didn't want to age him like that.
You was playing AAU like 96, 97?
No. I was 5 and 6. No, I was 7 and 8 those years.
No, I'm sorry. Probably 04.
Yeah. Like I graduated high school 07, so I was playing AAU probably like 04, 05, 06. Yeah. Like my AAU experience was, so I played in high school. I played in college. I played D3. So I was like one of those guys I was happy to be on the roster because I played on like really good AAU teams, like the Raiders. Right before I started playing with the Raiders was when Tyreek Evans was playing with them.
Okay.
So I played with like all the guys that I played with on the Raiders were younger than me because they all played like a year out. I was just happy to be out there with them. Yeah. And then like when you were playing on the Hunting Park Warriors with folks like Marcus and Markeith, a bunch of other D1 guys. Actually. Our player development coach, Jason Love, who played at Abingdon Friends and played at Xavier, played overseas for a while, played with him. Andrew Jones also played at AFS and at Penn State, like Scoop Jardine, Rick Jackson. Like so
got it.
I was just like happy to be out there. But it was like AAU back then was, I think, it was starting to become a bigger business. Like I remember I went out to Vegas one year with the Raiders. That was the only year I went out to Vegas, which back then was like the big.
Right.
It was the Reebok Big Time Classic. I think it was like Adidas Super 64, and I forget what the Nike tournament was called.
So this is before Nike Eyeball.
Yeah, it's before EYBL. Yeah. So because like Vegas, it was the 1 weekend in Vegas where all three.
They were all there at the same time. They were all there
at the same time. Yeah, but depending on which circuit you were on. That's whatever tournament you were in. Now it's like I can't even describe to you what it's like now, just because it's like a mini NBA in and of itself. Really.
Exactly.
And like youth sports has become much more of it's just, I think all sports have really evolved and grown as like an industry and a business. And like youth sports has definitely been like a big piece of that. And I think there's some things that are really great about that. And there's some things that's like,
some stuff that's exploitative a little bit about it. Like we're identifying kids in 6th grade now. Like,
which is crazy.
Like we're younger than that.
Yeah.
And with social media right now, like you got kids who are, so like just going back to when I was in high school, like you had guys who were really good. It's like, how are you going to handle the spotlight? LeBron's the best example of how you handle the spotlight from like the jump, right? But then you also have other stories where it's like it's just too much at a very young age.
Yeah.
And now when you add social media where everything is just bigger than it used to be, it's a lot, and it's good because now I think it's good because now kids can get paid, and it's not just like, well, I'm doing all this for free and I'm getting exploited, but also on the other hand, there's a lot that comes with it. And so I think the question is like, how do you create an environment where you're able to earn what you're owed, frankly, but also you got the proper guardrails and supports around you so that you don't, you're able to make responsible decisions probably before you're mature enough to really make the right decisions for yourself.
Yeah, I think there's a fine line between, the level of monetization that some of these kids are able to make, and then the responsibility that comes with that level of monetization, and almost like putting you in an adult's role way earlier than you're supposed to be, because essentially, like, if you're a 5-star or 4-star basketball player, you're the breadwinner of your family, even if you in 10th 11th grade, because of the presence of NIL money and sponsorship and all of that stuff. So it kind of like can change the family dichotomy a little bit also, and if you're not in a real grounded situation, then you can have a lot of problems, a lot of tentacles.
Yeah. And again, like even back then, you already had people who were like, oh, I think this kid's going to be big, so let me try to, attach myself to him or her. Well, mostly him, just because, especially back then.
Upside,
like women's sports weren't the same as what they are today, and there's still a lot, of catching up to do. But, again, like everything's just magnified today. So it's a matter of how do you – and honestly, I mean, we'll get into this in a different way. This is what I think about a lot in terms of work. But how do you make sure that like opportunity is created, but also in a way that's really productive for everybody
and responsible?
And responsible, and it's not destructive because it has the opportunity to do that.
Like you wanted to say something?
No, I was just more so thinking about like, damn, that's something you don't really think about. Like we watch these videos of these kids. Remember the other day we was watching? We watching a junior who's doing the Aaron Gordon dunk in game, taking on his. It's just
things PKs do also today. It's crazy.
Insane. But you don't think like, yo, he's walking around Chicago, Staten Island,
with
Long
the world
Beach,
on his
California,
shoulders,
with all, and you think about it. Made me think honestly about like child movie actors.
Yeah,
where like they don't really get the fairest shake. And you look up and you hear these Drew Barrymore stories where it's like, what do you mean you were in a party at 13 with the, and then that's reality.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison.
So and to be fair, if you fizzled out back in the day, you were almost allowed that. Where now, think about people almost use fizzle out stories as like fable. Like you don't go out like Where back in the day, it's like if you going to the league didn't happen, you were allowed to just go get your job, get your degree.
Like people are being used as a cautionary tale, but it's like there's a real person and real people that are affected on the other side of you just telling this 60-second story on TikTok.
And I've seen them do that with like all the way up to collegiate stars who didn't go to the A, and they'll like almost like play this man, and then you look and it's like, oh, he on a car dealership. And it's like, he got a good ass life.
Right.
It's like we use it as like a knock to him. So it's like, yeah, that's something to think about for like a 13, 14-year-old. Like you basically get put in a position that I remember me as 13 where you were allowed to make mistakes. Yeah. It was cool. Yeah. But you at 13, if you make one wrong mistake, the whole thing shuts down. Yeah. That's like kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That's sad, honestly.
No, it is. It is.
Damn.
It is.
All right.
Can I, real quick, just last one. Are you a fan of the AAU structure? Like in its present day?
Honestly, I can't, like to be real, I'm so busy all the time that I don't pay as much attention to it. Like the most I pay attention to it right now is I got like one of my best friends in the world, Paul Beckles. He works out at Nike, so he's involved in all that stuff because he does a lot of
Shout
brand
out to
marketing.
Paul, man, I wear 15.
Size 9.
So like I'll hear, he really like keeps me like up to speed on things, but I don't really like consume a lot of it outside of like the videos I see on social media, partly because like working here, like there's so much basketball that I watch that like I just there's like a limit to how much
how much mental bandwidth you got.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, kind of starting to tie the story together, I wanted to talk about the youth athletics and all of that because of your role as a youth director and different things that you've done, different positions that you held. But just kind of starting with like the story of the Sixers. A lot of people don't really know that the Sixers are owned by a larger corporate entity, which is Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment. I said it in the intro. Yeah. If you could please explain like the corporate structure and some of the companies that it owns and how that relates to some of your responsibilities. Yeah. In the role that you carry.
Yeah, so we don't always advertise this, and what I'm about to say we'll make it clear. But so I work for Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment. We're owned by Josh Harris, and our managing partners are Josh Harris and David Blitzer. They bought the Sixers from Comcast in 2012. A few years after that, they purchased the New Jersey Devils, the NHL team, and the Prudential Center. Right. And then I think shortly after that, they formed sort of the parent company for both entities and brought them all under one umbrella. So that became Harris. That's when Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment was created. And then since then, like Josh and David are like two of the most successful people, in the world at what they do.
Josh just recently for the Redskins.
Yeah,
with a separate
Commanders.
Yeah, Commanders. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so separate ownership group.
Yeah, so within HBSC is really like Devils, 76ers. We just got into NASCAR, so purchased. We're partnered with Joe Gibbs Racing.
Amazing.
And then like Josh and David also have their own sort of investments and interests in teams in the sports entertainment industry outside of the HBSC umbrella. They're involved in youth sports. They actually just announced a partnership with Shaun White earlier this week. Olympic snowboarder.
Snowboarder.
Okay. Yep. Josh just purchased the Commanders over the summer, and then Blitz has a bunch of stuff in soccer, including an MLS team out in Utah. He's also got an interest in the Cleveland Guardians, formerly the Indians, and then they're both involved in the Crystal Palace, which is the Premier League team out in London. Yeah, well, part of it I don't know all the details, but there's like HBSC is they're not all under the HBSC umbrella, but we're involved in most of those because like we're all part of the same family. We get tapped to help out and support and collaborate in different ways. So for me, most of my time, as I'm sure we'll talk about, is spent on the 76ers, a lot of it with the arena, as I know DA talked about last time. But like me and my team, technically we are across all of HBSC.
Got it. So that was my follow-up was, with such a robust number of holdings, employees, responsibilities, how do you divide your time, between the individual companies and decide, like, what takes precedent? Or is it just kind of like any given day scenario?
Yeah, a little bit of that, a little bit of the latter. Personally, my time right now, most of it is spent on the arena here in Philadelphia because that's like a huge organizational priority. And I would say as somebody who grew up in Philly, that's a project that's really like important to me because I think it has a tremendous opportunity to really set a precedent for what large-scale development should look like in Philly and how it can be used to really to spur more economic opportunity for communities of color that typically aren't at the table for things like that. But to your question, like it's like we try to establish key like platforms and values and programs that are consistent across all HBSC companies. So like one example of that is a program that we launched back in 2020 called Buy Black. And that is a program that we're really proud of. It's so like a little bit about the sports entertainment business. Part of our business is like sponsorships and partnerships, just like y'all, right? Like
right.
You guys have different partners. We have partners. You go to a game and you see, us promoting Penn Medicine or Chick-fil-A or Toyota or whoever it may be.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. So those are big. They want to work with us because we have this big platform. We got millions of followers on social media. Everybody loves the Sixers or the Devils. It's a big brand, and they want to be associated with and they want exposure. The reality is like black-owned businesses for a lot of different reasons, based on historical discrimination practices, policies, haven't had the same opportunity to grow. So we don't have a lot of black-owned businesses that are like Fortune 500 companies that have, like market caps of billions of dollars and stuff like that. And so we created the Buy Black program to try to address that. And we said, every year we're going to select at least one Black-owned business for each of our teams and make them an official team partner at no cost. So we treat them just like we treat anybody else. This Local Artisan Foods is our business this year. Another business that we worked, I'm actually wearing the hoodie right now, Eastside Golf, applied year one. We didn't select them, but then like shortly after that, they signed a CAA icon. They got a partnership with Jordan. They're really blowing up and like helping. I've seen them. Yeah. They're like, their stuff is dope. Yeah. Actually, there's some hoodies coming for y'all. They didn't get here in time, but
beautiful. Just keep getting more stuff. Man.
But they like that's they actually have come back and are helping us present the Buy Black program this year and offering mentorship and things like that to some of the businesses, given that they've actually really blown up on their own to their own credit. So it's like that's an example of something that we're doing across all HBSC properties because like the consistency in how we want to approach business, and really like my team's mission is how do we work across all of our different verticals to leverage what we do on a day-to-day basis to like have a positive impact in our community. So that looks different depending on the day. And I have, while I'm like off playing in Arena Land, my team is really like making sure the trains run every day with things like Buy Black and other stuff.
I think that, everything that you just said points to how real economic development takes place and how a company can go from being, very micro or very, locally centric or whatever to having this wide reach and becoming macro within their local market. And because of the legitimacy of being attached to such a large, sports and entertainment entity, be able to leverage that to be able to create even more opportunity for themselves, because like you said, like, they become a official partner. It's with the Sixers, it's with the Devils as well, and they get the same preferential treatment as the people that pay for that. I think that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you don't have like access is huge, man.
Huge.
And like something that I've learned it applies to my own like professional career, and also like what I've seen is oftentimes the reason that people are successful is because like they just got a chance, they got an opportunity, they got exposed at some point in time. And granted, they were able to take advantage of that. But like if you never get that exposure, you never get that opportunity, like there's only so much you can do to create that yourself. And that comes from having money sometimes. That comes from who you know, whether it's professionally or personally or like where you come from. Yeah. And so like a lot of what I see our team's role is, given I get to like I have the privilege of serving in this role like in the C-suite of like one of the, I would say like fastest growing and I would say well-respected sports and entertainment companies in the country, is how do I help create that access so that other people have the opportunity to benefit from this platform? Because look, a lot of companies want to do business with us. They want to be associated with our brand, and I'm just trying to do the little things that we can to help right some of the wrongs of the past that have created a lot of the economic disparities that we see in our cities and the country.
Let me ask you this, because I feel like the people with the who is DG? How did you get here? Like where you started in corporate, right?
No. I actually it's funny because I grew up in Germantown. Went to college in Rochester, like Chad was saying, and when I was coming out of school, I knew that I just knew I wanted to do good. My mom was a teacher; she taught at Germantown Friends, where I went to school. My dad was a union organizer and then a leader, and I was like, I don't really care how much money I make. I just want to make sure like I'm in a position to give back to the communities that I came from, because I saw a lot of the disparities that both like a kid growing up in Germantown and going to a school like GFS, where like GFS, the tuition to send a kid to school as a senior in high school at GFS is actually more than the median household income and the zip code that GFS is in and that I grew up in. So I saw like this crazy disparity between what kids I went to school with had and kids that were in my neighborhood. And then also like from a personal standpoint, I grew up in Germantown. My mom grew up in like West Baltimore. My dad, white guy, grew up in Westchester, New York. And I also saw just like the difference of the different sides of my family, like literally white and black, the opportunities they had, whether it's like college, shit that my family on my mom's side had to deal with, whether it be like substance abuse, incarceration, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yeah. So like that was like that's always been seared into my brain just based on where I come from. And so I was like, I want to do something to, like, I'm wired, like, if I see a problem, like, I want to fix it. Right. Yeah. So so I was like, what I want to do in my life is I want to see how I can fix some of these disparities. So I came out working in the nonprofit world. That was a long way of saying I came out of school, wanted to work in the nonprofit world. I worked at a research and evaluation nonprofit coming out. Got laid off like a year afterwards because it was like during the Great Recession and funding was like really slim. Okay. And then I went to work at a foundation, the William Penn Foundation. From there, I went to work for the city for the Mayor's Rebuild Program, like Chad was saying. And then I got here because our COO, Laura Price, I actually came over to this. Actually, it's crazy. I was sitting in this room that we're in right now in probably like 2017. I was working for the city. We were trying to raise money for the Sixers. And damn, I just realized it was actually the exact room I was in. So I'm sitting here pitching Laura, the team president at the time, and the head of the foundation to fund the rebuild program that I was working on. We didn't get the money, but like 3 years later, Laura gave me a call. She's like, hey, the head of the foundation is leaving. Like, you really made an impression on me when I met with you. I think you'd be perfect for it. Would you be interested? I wasn't really interested in working in the corporate world because everything I said, but I was, for a variety of reasons, I was like, I'm kind of getting burnt out at the city. Let me try this out and see what it's like. It'd be cool to work for the Sixers, growing up here, being a basketball player. Absolutely. And so I actually came over initially to run the Sixers Youth Foundation. This is like right at the top of the pandemic, and then George Floyd was murdered like a month and a half later, and a lot of things happened that kind of got me to my position there. But that's how I got into the corporate world. Okay. It was never. I actually never imagined I would be in a position like this. Okay. It was never like part of it. It just,
kind of fell forward into
it. Yeah.
I think something that you spoke on that I literally never thought about before, but I thought about it in this moment is that people that grow up in the Germantown section of Philadelphia are uniquely qualified to understand like the dichotomy of like rich and poor in Philadelphia just because of
Mount
proximity.
Airy, Chestnut Hill.
Mount Airy, you got.
You said you were from Germantown. I so bad wanted to be like, what Germantown are you talking about? Because it's like 4 different.
Yo, that's a fact. That's a fact.
Seriously, when you were saying, I'm like, you talking Shell Nav?
So I grew up on Haynes Street, like 2 blocks down. You know where the police precinct is, right by Germantown High. I grew up a block from there between McCallum and Green. Okay. Block. So I walked through Vernon Park every day to get to school. Yeah. But like you go 2 blocks over from where I grew up at, and there's like these huge Victorian mansions.
Them 2-doors would be $800,000.
Yeah, exactly.
So literally, living in Germantown, you're 10 minutes from two of the most affluent neighborhoods in Philadelphia.
Yep.
In Mount Airy, West Mount Airy, and then Chestnut Hill.
Yep.
And then you're also 10 minutes from abject poverty
in like Nicetown.
In Nicetown and everything else in the other direction. And I really never even thought about that, but it's like, and then, using your school tuition as like a benchmark to say like, yo, this school tuition is more than the average household income of the people that live here. So who's supposed to go to this school?
Yeah.
One thing I kind of realized though, driving the bus, you realize
you take a lot, I bet.
But you think about the schooling issue where it's like, just look at the 27 and the 9, right? Mm-hmm. 27 and 9 goes out, go up Roxborough, come out of Roxborough. Mm-hmm. The 27 and 9 in the morning is bringing predominantly black kids up into Roxborough to go to Roxborough and Saul.
Right.
And then they're leaving out of Roxborough with predominantly white kids to go to Roman Catholic. It's crazy. And I used to think about that all the time. Like, yo, the bus is going up in the morning, packed with black kids and packed with white kids coming out.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's always like that. Like the school be in this neighborhood, but it's a whole different dynamic for who's actually going to the school.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. When you said it, I thought about it. Like, what Germantown did you live in?
It's funny because I was talking to, who was I talking to the other day? Somebody, I forget who it was, but it was he went to King. No, he didn't go to King, but he grew up in Germantown. So Germantown would have been my public high school. King would have been his, and he was like, I think he went to Roman, and he was saying that He's like, yeah, man. Like whenever I started getting in trouble, my mom was like, yo, you want to go to King?
Yeah.
Because this is the other option. And unfortunately, some kids have other opportunities. Like I was very fortunate to have an alternative. There's a lot of kids that don't, and that's a whole conversation about the public school system and the underfunding of it and the economic segregation and the racial segregation of our city. But again, those are all the things that like I saw growing up, and I was like, yo, this is fucked up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like somebody got to do something about this. And I mean, not that it's like I'm Superman, but like I want to be part of the solution to help make sure that this doesn't like.
Yeah, some of the things that go on and we just exist in and be like, how is this like part of this?
Yeah.
Like, how is this even going on? You try to process it, but it's one of those battles where it's just like, yeah, I'm one man. Like, how, you know what I mean? Like, so I get that.
Yeah.
So when you came over here, you basically came in to run the youth foundation. Yeah. And then through the pandemic, George Floyd, everything went.
Yeah, like I came over and it was a joke because it was like, man, you had the fastest promotion in the history. Because so what happened was, George Floyd. So I come over like mid-April. George Floyd's murder, I think, like on Memorial Day of 2020. Because I'm only here for like a month and a half. Y'all remember that time, like all of a sudden, everybody cares.
The world
about
got
black
turned
people.
on his head.
Everybody's putting out, statements about, we support black people.
Black squares on Instagram.
Yeah, all that, right? Like that was a moment, right? Like, that was a very specific moment.
We were having a conversation the other day. Remember when the NBA got with the jerseys? Mm-hmm. It was like, man, I'm trying to watch the Lakers. Who was wearing this 23? Like, what the NBA live is going on?
Who's Equality 44?
That time period was crazy.
Yeah, so that's the environment that I came in here. Also, like working completely remote. Like I'm at home this whole time. This is during the pandemic, which is a really weird time to join a new organization. But so we put out a statement that week, just like everybody else did. And then, like, to their credit, Josh Harris and David Blitzer, and also I got to shout out EB, Elton Brand, our general manager, because he was also having conversation with Josh and Blitz, like, yo, like, this isn't just, like, I experienced this stuff, and I'm like Elton Brand, college All-American, NBA Rookie of the Year, NBA All-Star, general manager of the 76ers. I still experience this type of stuff. So conversations like that, I think, really moved Josh and Blitz, and they were like, well, we want to, like, we're not going to put out any more statements until we actually do something about it. We want to do something. Then the question was like, well, what do we do?
Right.
And my professional background is very unique relative to a lot of my colleagues, just because, like, as I was saying, I didn't grow up in the sports and entertainment industry. And so I find myself sort of leading the conversations internally among, like, our staff leadership of, like, what are we going to do? And my big thing was like, yo, at the end of the day, we're not the United Negro College Fund. We're not the NAACP. We're not a, social justice or civil rights organization. Like, we're a sports entertainment company. But there's a lot of stuff that we can do. Like, why don't we focus on what we do really well?
Right.
And then, like, figure out how we channel that to do good. And so I ended up being the one to pitch, like, the plan to Josh and Blitz, which was a $20 million philanthropic commitment. But then also this commitment to really, like, leveraging our business operations to do good with, like, the, racial equity and diversity, equity, inclusion lens, both for our staff but also within our communities. And my role was created to sort of oversee that work, both the philanthropic commitment and sort of like the practice. And I was really adamant about structuring it like that because I knew that, like, we were in a very specific moment in time. And so my goal is, like, how do we institutionalize this practice into the DNA of the company so it's not like 1 year from now when we don't have all this energy and excitement on racism, frankly, and social inequality, like, how do we make sure that this, like, really holds? And unfortunately, you see a lot of diversity positions that have, like, people are resigning. All the programs and promises that people made are, like, starting to wither away. And my team has grown over time as opposed to shrinking. And I think that's a big testament to the work that our team is doing. It's also a big testament to leadership from DA, Josh and Blitz, Tab Brown, who's our CEO and my boss, to making sure that this is something that we're gonna continue to be focused on.
Yeah, one thing I will say, like, at least from the outside looking in, I like the stance and the position that the Sixers organization seems to be on. Just the work with Pastor Carl, you know, different things, even down to like it just, even me and Beth were talking about it, like just how down to earth everything feels now. It doesn't feel, you know, like just historically, there's always been like a barrier between us and management ownership of these large corporations where you don't know these people, you don't see them. And I was telling her, like, what I expected from Edelman was totally
he's a real one, man.
Super real one. Pulled up in an Uber, Travis Scott's on. What's up?
Like, we drinking? I'm like, all right, like straight up. But there's always been like a, you know, just that invisible barrier of like y'all are over there and y'all exist over there and we don't see y'all or deal with y'all. You know, ever. And to see what happened, like we just made the joke, the awareness jerseys and the, you know, spirit jerseys and all these different things, and that went away. And I remember even Phil Jackson took a lot of flack, but he was just like, I'm not really a fan of the NBA right now. Because he's like, I don't want to see all this junk because that's not why I'm here. And people took it the wrong way. And I'm like, he's not wrong. It just kind of got overplayed because it's like in a couple of months when y'all go back to not doing this, now what?
And he can't say that also because because of his history and the posse. Like he has a checkered past when it comes to like caring about anything other than like just basketball. So,
but like you said, now we're at a point where, you know, we're removed from it. You know, it's not a hot topic anymore. But it's like what's being done, and I think the Sixers have done a very good job to where I'm like, yo, I can see me being, I can be a fan. You know what I'm saying? I could pull the trigger, be a fan. Like just because I like the internal and going to the games and actually you go and you meet people and you talk, you in the lounge and just this person is here, you talking to this person, you just like, and it's like a fun thing to be around now. So,
I mean, I appreciate that because that's the goal. Is like again, like we're talking about how small Philly is. My whole career has been here. You know, HBSC has grown. I've, you know, responsibilities in different markets, but like this is always going to be home. And like in Philly, like you can't go anywhere without knowing somebody or knowing somebody that knows you. And so like reputation is, I can't speak on other markets, but I wouldn't be surprised if like your reputation is more important in this city than it is in any other major city in the
I would tend to agree.
And so like I say that because, you know, I have no interest in being part of anything that's not real, not fake. Because like again, like my career has been about something that's very, very specific. And I'm not interested in doing anything that's going to put that reputation like on the line. Because frankly, like that's my career and my livelihood. But also like that's my, like if I can't walk around my own city, like I'm just not going to be sane. Frankly, you know? Like this is home. Like, you know, like it's like walking into your house and like you, like a stranger sitting in your like at your dining room table. Like I want it. Like this is home, and I can't. That's not something I'm willing to jeopardize. So again, like shout out to the organization for giving, I would say, us the runway and the latitude and sort of the autonomy and the resources, big thing on resources, to actually like carry out the work and kind of seeing if we can like make this crazy vision come to fruition.
Yeah, no, that's real.
If you could quantify it, how important is community outreach and involvement to, you know, the Sixers and HBSC as a organization?
It's really big, man, because we always say that, you know, we are look, the Sixers are one of the oldest brands and teams in the NBA, right? And so while like Josh and Blitz may be quote unquote and DA may be quote unquote owners of the team, you know, they always talk about very intentionally, like they're also stewards of a brand. Like their Sixers are going to be here after they are gone, right? Sixers are going to be here after I'm gone. They were here before all of us were here. And so like I say that because the community makes up the team, right? Like that's the only thing that makes the 76ers possible is the fan base in the city, and we have the best fans in the NBA. And so giving back to the community, like that's something that matters. Like honestly, what Matt just said, I don't know who your team is, because you said that you may consider becoming a fan. Lakers. It's like you and the Lakers and Carl and the Cowboys, man. Well, actually, as soon as I said I forgot I'm sitting. Anyway, we're gonna move off that topic.
Take the Cowboys money line this weekend, man.
Oh yeah, we got a big game this weekend.
Yeah.
But anyway, like that's the like what Matt just said. Honestly, is like the key, because not only is it I think the right thing to do, but it's also, I genuinely believe, good for business. And I think one of my concerns with coming over here is like I'd only ever worked for organizations that were about the mission, and like making money was not the goal, right? This is the first time I've worked for an organization where like the goal is to make, I mean, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Like, you work for a for-profit entity, like you got to make money to make a living. That's why I have a job, right? But I think that there's a gap in the market. There's untapped potential to do good through outreach to the community, through serving the community, through doing good, addressing a lot of these disparities that we're seeing, and doing it in an authentic way that people will take note of and be like, wow, nobody's really doing it like that.
Exactly.
And like, hey, I want to be part of that. Like, I fuck with that. I want to, I want to support. And so I think that's a big piece of sort of like the value proposition. It's not just a feel good thing. It's also good for business. And I think it's a false sort of like assumption that they have to be at odds with each other.
Exactly.
There's creative ways to make sure that they can actually be synergistic.
And then even like, something as small as the fact that you guys as an organization make yourself so available to guys like us that are, independent content creators and stuff like that. And, we talked to DA, and we're talking to you now. When I talked to Karen yesterday, who works in the comms team, she's like, if there's anybody else within the organization that, you want to talk to, whatever, talk directly to me. And like everybody's just so amenable to being front facing and having, these conversations and making themselves available to something like us that's authentically Philadelphia also.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if this show changes. You get where I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, this show can change your perception just because your reality changes behind this show. You understand what I'm saying? So for years, I kind of looked at, like, I'll be honest with you. I looked at
me like as a host, like for
just
you?
Being a part of what we're doing with this show.
Okay. Yeah.
So for me, for years, the Sixers, it was kind of just like,
like you go with Kevin to a game and just like,
Spectrum,
and,
big finger, phone finger, you know what I mean?
Oh, I got you. Yeah, like back in the day.
And they didn't win anything. And then when Iverson came along, it was like, man, we love AI. So that made you, and then Pat Croce is, cheering, and we
hip hop.
Me and Jules had a thing that Pat Croce was hip hop, because we never seen him in the same place ever. Like, we used to joke like, yo, that's Pat in that suit, man. Like, but yeah, like it was like a cool, fun thing to be around, but we didn't know the inner workings of the Sixers and what was going on in the organization. So now, fast forward, us with this show, and I'm a Lakers fan, Cowboys fan, but I'll be honest with you.
That's crazy.
I'm a Cowboys fan, like lineage. Like, I've been one for years, but I don't really like them anymore. Like the inner
They're hard to root for.
It's hard. I like Dak, I like CD, but like the inner workings, But the inner workings here through this show, like you said, have been so amenable to where it's like, I know Dave Edelman. I know Dave Gould. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I've been here for the season ticket holder thing where you meeting people and we out on the floor shooting around. It's like, I haven't done that with the Cowboys or the Lakers. So it's just, the show has changed my perception, and going to all these games, sitting on the floor, joking around with Doc, joking around with this person. I remember we was going back and forth with Paul Reed and all these different, it feels fun, and being in this position, you're more a part of this than I've been of any organization. You know what I mean? So y'all have done a very good job at making yourselves available.
Yeah, no, it's honestly been like the marketing team and the branding team. Like, there's been a very intentional effort to sort of like realign the brand with the city, like, to your point. And I think that like far predated me. That's I was fortunate to like come into a situation where that's something that the organization embraced. And I feel like our work is like a small piece of that hopefully can like be additive and like add a different layer, a different angle.
It's just like I said, I go to the game and my homie's on the microphone getting the crowd hype. Then I know the homie shooting the t-shirts out the can, and Kimba's doing security, and
we know like Rob Nicholson that handles like VIP ticketing and stuff like that.
So it's just you because of just the life we live, so many parts.
Yo, you go to a Sixers game and it's like people ask me what my game day responsibilities. I'm like, yo, just to be in the mix, because like it's like you.
Yeah, we still waiting to get invited down to come chill in the suite with y'all. We still waiting. You know what I'm saying?
Come on down. I feel like last season I saw you like every game. I don't know if I've seen you yet this year.
We went to the first game.
Okay.
I haven't gone since.
And that wasn't it.
Yeah, but you was
Yeah,
only
we went to
20
we
games
went to
in.
the first game, and then me and him were together. Then I went to the Knicks game. That was a home game, like in like mid-November or whatever. There was a
Okay.
Knicks game at home. That was a sellout. That was rocking.
Yep.
I went to that one, and maybe one or two other games. But I haven't been in any this season.
Yeah, I was waiting for the invite. I was like,
Oh, I got you. I
I
got
just
you.
look at it every day. I look at it. Like, DA ain't say nothing. Dave Gould is high.
DG texts me all the time. I'm like, all right, is there a ticket attachment?
You want to go tonight?
When he was like,
You want to go tonight?
Who's the playing tonight?
I don't even care. Yeah, I want to go today.
Oh yeah, I'll go. Shit.
All right, well, let me see if we can figure it
When
out.
he was like, DG got a surprise, some gifts for us. So I'm like, I want some tickets, man.
Because I thought you were a season ticket holder.
Last year.
Oh, see, I didn't know. See, I'm
Like,
like,
I was FanDuel, man. Listen, I see why Ruben got out of here. Last year was on fire. This year, I don't know what's going on. All these comebacks, it is crazy. But I'll slide tonight. But I just in the grand scheme of things, I just think y'all have done a very good job at making yourselves notable. Mm-hmm. And even not even on a basketball level.
yeah, just like
as
a culture, community
people.
level. Yeah. Oh, it's
You know,
people. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the 76 place that like that's helping, but like every other, I saw the thing the other day. Y'all were doing like some type of meeting speech or whatever. I was like, oh, there go DA, there go DG. Like y'all were talking. I seen all the numbers up on the board or whatever. I don't know what it was, but that's what I
do
mean.
so many of those. I don't even know what
It was just I was just scrolling Reddit, you know what I'm saying, looking for some
Yeah.
fights. And
we had a big community meeting a couple weeks ago.
I was just looking for some street fights, and I was like, there go DG.
These guys are everywhere.
Everywhere. Like, yeah, man, straight up. Let's get into the 76 place, man.
Yeah.
Y'all, I'm gonna be honest, y'all. DA told us 20. I think y'all lease is done with
2031.
2031.
2031.
I don't know if Market East can hold on. 20, I don't know. You know what I mean? But I ain't gonna hold you. I'm looking forward to it because and interesting thing
I
he said
appreciate
on the
that.
show. No, real.
Yeah.
You don't even realize when you're going to all these other cities because me and him get to where we're all over the place.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
You go to LA and you see Staples and where it's at. You go to Phoenix and see the arena and see where
Go
it's
to
at.
Dallas.
You go to Miami and see, it's not American, it's FTX, right? They
Yeah.
take that name.
I think they took that down.
Yeah. I forget. I forget. what it is.
150 we did. Yeah, we
take
did
that.
that. But it's but it's on
Bang Bros Arena.
it's on Biscayne Boulevard. You know what I mean? And you go to all these different places. You go to Charlotte. Buzz City is literally across the street from the epicenter. Like all these arenas are right there, and it's like the Sixers, for them to be like this organization that's thriving and pushing forward, and you got this generational talent with NBA. Y'all need an arena downtown.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I agree.
And then when Edelman said that we're pitching something that's not the first of its kind.
Yeah, we're the 29th.
We'll be 28th.
28th.
Yeah.
Like, you need an arena downtown.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. No, yes, everything you just said, Matt. Like it's we are the outlier. The other thing about us as Philadelphians is like we definitely, and I get this because I do it too. Like we romanticize the status quo. We love to complain about things, but then we also don't want them to change either. You know
Damn
what I
blue
mean?
buttons. One time.
So it's like I appreciate why. Like, look, frankly, like if I wasn't working on the project and if I wasn't working so closely with DA on it, like I'd probably be like, man, I don't know if this makes sense. Like, but I've spent so much time thinking about it and like working on it, and like I'm a true believer, and it's because, to your point, Market East is really in rough shape. It's been proven in a lot of other. In most other markets, as something that's viable and successful,
It's
and
a winning
conservative
concept.
catalyst. Exactly. And the other thing, because my world is what is this going to mean for the city? What is this going to mean for communities outside the center city? Because a lot of people look like, oh man, this is just for rich people trying to get richer, right?
Right.
There's a business component to it, right? Like we're business. That's okay. But when you think about Market East, so one supporter of the project right now is SEIU 32BJ. They are a union. They represent like custodial and janitorial workers and security guards and things like that. And they're supportive of the project. There's two things I appreciate about their support. One is the reason they support is there's not a ton of jobs for them, relatively speaking, in the arena proper. But They represent black and brown, mostly black and brown, like Philadelphians from working class neighborhoods. Most of those jobs are in like big office towers and residential towers that are currently emptying out in Center City, and none are coming out of the ground. And so when you think about the importance of the Market East corridor, and when you have all this vacancy and when it's dead, and you have places like Disney Hall on 8th and Market that hasn't been developed in God knows how long, that's a missed opportunity. That when we have the highest poverty rate of all major cities in the country, and we have a school district with buildings that are literally crumbling, and you read about a new school that's got to close because of asbestos or whatever the hell is going on, like
Jordan
every
Harris
month.
just talked about that.
Yeah, exactly. Then like these are the types of projects that, one, create jobs for working class Philadelphians, and two, help to support our tax base to help serve kids. So kids like me, if I grow up in Germantown, like I don't necessarily have to try to figure out a way to get into a private school. Like I'm comfortable going to my neighborhood public school. And my parents feel like that is the best option for me. And so like I think a lot of people don't necessarily connect that to, like, they think about it of like, you know, this is like a money grab or a land grab. Like, no, these are the types of projects that actually help make a city thrive and help make the people, give opportunities for people in the city. And like SEIU is an organization that's very progressive politically, and a lot of people wouldn't think that they support it, but that's why. And I commend them for them thinking about it in that way, because it actually is something that is, there's more that needs to be done to make sure that it supports communities of color and lower income communities, which I'd love to get into, but like just putting it there does have a massive positive impact that like we have to acknowledge and talk about and figure out how to embrace.
Yeah, I went down a rabbit hole one night on. I started out looking for fights on Reddit, and
Sounds like that's a
But I wound up going down the rabbit hole of these big buildings, these skyscrapers that are literally vacant, and I don't think people realize the domino effect that has. Where it's like there are like 3 huge skyscrapers right now downtown Philly where they said they're about to go like bankrupt on like the loans because of the just no one's paying
the
it.
Wanamaker building where Macy's is, you know, rest in peace to the security guard.
Eric Harrison, we just talked about it,
But Macy's is leaving in 2027, and that building is in receivership, like the Wanamaker building.
And
that's insane. It's a landmark.
Like where Wanamaker's was, like the one, like
and the rabbit hole I went down, to your point, was talking about how you don't realize how when these buildings are fully staffed and fully functioning, custodians, janitor, all these services, overnight staff, security, all these different things, they just run like clockwork because the building is fully occupied. But if the building is at 15%, we don't need all this cleaning. So you got all these different issues that arise.
It's a whole huge trickle-down effect of negative economy.
It's crazy. So when you see somebody trying to revitalize an area, like not just a corner or a building, like that revitalizes the entire strip. Everything changes because with this building, this arena, oh man, we need a sports bar, we need a restaurant. We think about if you haul off and get an Xfinity Live on Market East. You understand what I'm saying? That now we need a Foot Locker. Now we need this.
Now for people that's coming out of town or traveling with the team, the Lowe's is packed now, and then in their bar restaurant that's downstairs, the District Taco across the street, like everything benefits from this being there.
And Iron Hill just pumping grease, like seriously.
And it's 2 things, right? So it's one, because like a lot of things y'all mentioned are like the big, like, you know, the sort of like big box, you know, kind of things, which is that important. That's important. But also, like, think about all the small businesses and restaurants that are in the area, whether it be like family-owned businesses, whether it be in Chinatown, Reading Terminal, Washington Square West, Midtown Village, you know, the Gabrielhood. Like, there are, like, when you bring people down there, now all of a sudden you have people who are going to spend money with small business owners that, like, you know, also are very important to the tax base and to like the city. It's not just about the big, shiny, flashy, you know, like big corporations. It's about the smaller guys and women, and that's another thing but you have to bring people down there for that to be viable, right?
Yeah,
and if not,
people don't come down there right now, and that's just reality.
And then, like, you know, there's exactly.
That's just reality.
And so this is, again, like, part of the reason why I'm so passionate about the project is because it has the potential to have a positive impact on those communities that I've been working my whole career to try to, you know, support and drive resources back into.
Just as a sports fan, we're all sports fans, and we all go to different places and go to games. And I know for a fact how much fun it is to leave a game and you got things to do.
Yes.
I just understand.
Yes.
Shout out to Jules. We went down. I went to Dirk because Dirk was my favorite player. We went to Dirk's last game when the Mavericks' last game against Charlotte. We went, and it's like literally you pull up to the Spectrum and you just like, yo, this is literally like literally smack dab downtown. We got done in there. We left outside and walked across the street to a party going on in a bar at the Epicenter. Hookahs, bada, and it's just like literally the arena right there. Like walked across the street. Yeah. And it's like, that's the kind. You think about Atlanta, think about LA. It just, that's kind of what you want. You don't want your night to just drastically go off of a cliff.
What's it like leaving a Sixers game right now?
I'll be honest with you. Chad, probably when the Sixers get done, we'll go in the lounge, hang out for like 10, 15 minutes. Shout out Marv. Marv is up in the Cadillac.
Adrian, but we used to be Cadillac. Yeah.
He's up there. So we'll go up there and kick it with him, just waiting for the traffic to die down.
Right.
And finally, after, the little short security guard, all right, y'all got to clear this. He want everybody out.
Last call.
Last call. Like, y'all done. He kick everybody out. Come down the elevator. By now, the parking lot done died down. I come down. I live in KOP. Hop on 95, and I'm
home
to the crib.
Yeah.
That's just a reality.
No, and like how much more fun it is if like you don't have to look. You may wait for traffic to die down, but now you can go out to
go get a drink. You can go do
wherever. You in Center City already.
To be all the way fair, it increases ridership on the public because even
public transit.
Even he was saying it like, yo. Again, coming from KOP, like I'm down here tonight, so it's like that's why we use like the game. I'm like, shit, sound good to me.
Say less,
say less. So Pete, coming from King of Prussia, like on nights where we go into games, and I like being there I want to see the fire and all that. Like so, you gotta leave. We gotta leave at 4:30, straight up to get down here. DA was like, man, I got on every regional rail possible, 30 minutes.
So we got to slide in our presentation. If you look at like some major points in region outside of Philly, it is on average a 40-minute reduction in time to get to 76Place on public transit than it would be to drive during the Wells Fargo.
It's not, and then you get there, you got park. I'm telling you, I know.
You got to figure out which entrance is open tonight and which one isn't.
I know. I get in there. I know what I'm doing. I've done it enough. I know what I'm doing. But the reality of it is like, yo, if I want to be at the arena at, let's say the tip off is 7:30, so it open doors at 6:30, unless you're going in the lounge. You want to be there at 6:15, 6:30. You really do got to leave from KOP before 5 o'clock.
Absolutely.
That's just reality. With rush hour coming down, you have to. So if you can get on regional rail and that eliminates all of that, and you walk off the train up the steps of the escalator and you, boom, that immediately takes so much headache, so much stress off of you. It increases ridership. It increases everything. And I don't think people are, but me and Beth talked about it. It's like, me and Beth was chopping it up. We was out there getting it in. And it's just, people more so will hold on to one drawback, and the drawback don't even be a real
and
drawback.
Ignore the 35 positives.
Because even us, and we were a little, I guess you could say, ignorant, because DA was like, no one's getting displaced. Not a single business, not a single home.
Yeah, man.
And then when you find that out, you just like, so we bitching about nothing.
Yeah, and there's a direct economic benefit in payment.
And
for
like
the people that are affected.
Yeah, and look, to be fair, right? Like there are for all the things that we're talking about that are great about the arena, right, in the new location, I also believe that you don't just drop an arena on Market East with no level of intentionality other than just building it, and it's automatically good for everybody, right? Like there are, look, let's talk about Chinatown for a minute, because we know that's where a lot of the coverage has been on. There's a lot of really legitimate concerns that folks in that community have. I've spent a ton of time in that community building relationships and trust with different community members. And a lot of them who are too scared to go out and speak out publicly just to say, like, I've made my mind up about the project. I think the project could be a good idea. But look, there are concerns around traffic, how businesses are going to be impacted. Like, are fans coming out of the building gonna like be disruptive to the neighborhood and people who live there? Like, that's all fair, and we have put together a lot of, I think, really thoughtful plans about how you manage all of that. And we've been working in collaboration, especially with how like the businesses are going to be able to benefit from it, which we have a lot of programs that we're focusing on making sure that happens. But like but what we don't have, what we haven't been talking about as much publicly, and one of the reasons why I appreciate this platform and y'all bringing me on here is, while there's legitimacy for a lot of those concerns, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So there's a difference between saying we're concerned about traffic for the neighborhood just to the north. We're concerned about property taxes rising or rents rising, which are different. We've got different ways of that you can address that. There's a difference between that and be like, well, the Sixers are coming in and they're knocking down a bunch of buildings and displacing a bunch of people, right? Like, and so we just want people to, if they have concerns about it, then let's talk about the facts. But let's also talk about the benefits of it, which like has not been part of the conversation, which is I think a real travesty because we've been trying to scream it from the rooftops forever.
Yeah, I personally just again I know I probably look at the world with blinders on, but I just have to assume that if the Sixers are playing basketball, because we all go to games, we know what the security and the precaution.
It's in our best interest to make sure everything is taken care of.
Like I have to assume if the Sixers are playing the Pelicans, it's going to be cops, security guards,
Public
cops
safety
on
officers.
horses.
Yeah.
I can't see people just running amok because they downtown as opposed to this parking lot. I don't see that.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, think about the foot y'all need to have me at the meetings. Like, think about how much salt and pepper chicken y'all sell when Yo Gotti is at Noto. Now think about doing that 4 times a week. Like, seriously. Because I just can't see being like chaos.
Yeah.
And that's the way they were.
And you don't see that in other cities, right? Like you guys go, I'm like, that's a question for y'all.
Yeah.
Like when y'all go around and travel, like what do you see after games?
I told you I went and had the hookah across the street from the So no, I personally don't see that. Is there unruly fans and people who end up getting taken away in cuffs? That's any sporting event on the planet.
But it's also
that's not the overarching culture, especially for Sixers.
I was going to say, like, there's also a difference between a Sixers game and an Eagles game.
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of people
different.
conflate the two, right?
And even the new Eagles game. The new Eagles ain't really like, it's not like.
There's no jail cell in
It's
in
not
Atlanta.
death-defying to walk in there. Like, I had a famous tweet from a couple years ago that went like dumb viral. I was like, my uncle's a Cowboys fan. That's where I get it from. He went to the vet with an Emmitt Smith jersey on. And my mom told him, like, yo, do not wear that jersey to the vet. He went and wore it. So you know them big things of mustard? Somebody threw one from, like, the upper deck, hit him in the back. And they get taken out on a stretcher. Missed 2 weeks of work. I'm like, we told us that.
Workers' comp claim.
That's you on the news. Like, straight up. We told us that it's not to wear that. But, like, that's what it I know people who go with Cowboys clothes on all the time, not the Eagles jersey. It's like, people are saying stuff or whatever, but it's not that.
And like, you know, to your earlier point, Matt, about like us connecting with the city and the intentionality around branding and all that. Like the other thing that we really pride ourselves on is like Sixers games are family events. You know what I mean?
Listen, you've gone to Eagles games or football games?
Yeah.
When you go to a football game, and a baseball game too, to be fair, you realize very fast that you're like you like talking about going to the game tonight. I'm like, all right, I can go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, all right, whatever. I ain't like, but you go to the Phillies game and it's like you'll see, you know, cut off muscle tees, no muscles. You know what I'm saying?
No shirts.
No shirt under the muscle shirt, toe thong sandals. You'll see that. You go to the Eagles game, you might not see a shirt. I remember we went years ago, me and Rod went to the Cowboys-Eagles game, and they were like messing with us because we had clothes on. Yeah. All these white dudes, they have no clothes on because it was freezing. And they was teasing us for having jackets.
Be a man.
I was going to say
Be a man. Yeah. But when you go to a Sixers game, everybody looks good. People are mad. You like you said, family. People show up with matching outfits with their kids, and it's a way laxed experience. And everybody's there just to look good, have a good time, be seen, talk to people. That's not the element.
That's right. I'll give y'all two
soccer game.
I'll give y'all two post game scenarios from me being at basketball games in other cities. I was in Atlanta. Sixers played Atlanta on the road. This is March 2019.
Because that was a good game.
Trae Young hit the game-winning shot or whatever.
I think it was at that game.
Yeah.
Playoff game 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
It was like the season was winding down. It was like March 23rd or something like that.
Okay.
Meek Mill had a concert the next day.
Gotcha.
Sixers played the Hawks, and it became an unofficial Philly weekend in Atlanta. Unofficially.
Yeah.
And something really slick that they did at the Hawks arena, they have VIP parking. Like, so if you sit courtside or AA row, whatever like that, they have VIP parking for like maybe like 45 or 50 parking spots or whatever that are like first come, first serve. So getting up there, I go around a little circle, boom, I identify VIP parking, I pull in, boom, I'm in the arena in 5 minutes. Leaving out, I'm out of the arena and I'm at STK in 15 minutes. Getting from out of there. And this was a Saturday primetime game, 7 o'clock, 7:30 start, whatever like that. I'm in STK 15 minutes after leaving the game. Staples Center, matinee game on a Sunday. They played, I think, the Spurs. This was in 2021. Sunday game, matinee. Getting in was like a little weird because they were like redirecting traffic around, but I got around the traffic, got into the building in about 30 minutes, got out and back onto the highway, 20 minutes. And this is a downtown arena with LA Live is here. All of this stuff around it. It was very simple, very easy to navigate and get in and out of both of those scenarios compared to what I go through now at the Wells Fargo at a Sixers game.
I'll say this, I guess the scenario, John. Last year I got so hyped up on Ja Morant and Desmond Bain. Like those that became my favorite backcourt to watch. So I was like, oh, they had a game against the Pelicans. Now, of course, this is when Zion's gonna play, I'm like, damn, I should go down to that game. So wound up, me and my wife, we get down there. We stayed in the hotel. Now, granted, this is Memphis. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't much.
But it's right down there, right? Like a couple blocks from the river.
The hotel, when I tell you,
that big bass fishing building.
You come out the door of the hotel, FedEx Forum is as close as that is. Like, I'm not joking. Like, literally, it's like walking across the street to the joint. And then Beale Street is literally the next block.
3 blocks over. Yeah.
So it's like we left out the hotel. Now, granted, the Pelicans were staying in our hotel too. And I was like, why are they staying here? The dude was like, it's the nicest hotel in Memphis. I'm like,
this is as good as it gets.
This is 3-star. But we walked across the street to the FedEx Forum. Went to the game. The game was fun, all that, whatever. Come out. Instead of walking back to our hotel, we made a right, went down to Bill Street, make a left, went to BBQs. Now we in there, live music, eating. And I'm like, this is what it, and that's Memphis, where it's like, that's what it should be. Like, you walk out of the arena, all right, tonight, what we doing?
Yep.
Seriously. Like, that makes all the sense in the world. And like DA said, for it to be 27 other cities. And then it made me think about like the cities I've gone to, like Charlotte, Miami. He's not lying. They're all downtown. So I'm totally on board with it. And then again, the misinformation. Once you add in that it's like nobody's getting displaced, no business is getting knocked down. They're just taking a part of the gallery, which already, let's be real, kind of isn't doing anything. It's like, oh, all right, it makes total sense. Then you look at the initiative for black business. We didn't even talk about that yet. The 40% black business owners. You talk about the give back to the teachers and the city tax. It's just like, come on, yo.
I think we're starting to get there, and like we've been working very hard to get here for the last 18 months, but in our mind, given the need that we've talked about that we have in the city and that we have on East Market Street, and understanding the concerns that some folks have, which are legitimate, don't want to discount them, we should not be having a conversation about whether this should happen in Philadelphia. It should be, how is it going to happen?
How and when?
Can we do it in a way that is really going to be beneficial to everybody, which again takes a level of intentionality, and we're working very hard to figure out what that looks like. But like, we got to shift the mindset, because the conversation so like almost immediately became like so controversial and this big like you got to pick a side, and like that's just not how you get shit done. And honestly, like when we have like, look, if we as a city are going to say we're going to turn down $1.5 billion in a private investment, what does that say to other people who want to invest in Philadelphia when God knows we need it? We're saying we're going to generate $200 million for the school district, and we turn that down, and at the same time we're going to people like Jordan at the state saying, hey, we need more money for our schools, and it's like, all right, well, we're going to help out, but are y'all going to do your part? Like, what message does that send? And again, like I love Philly. Like, this is home. Like, I will always be a Philadelphian, but we have this underdog mentality and this pessimistic mentality, and we are not. It's one of the great things about working with Edelman is like he was on the show. When he was on the show, he was like, I'm like the why not guy.
I'm the why not guy. Yep.
Like, admittedly, I'm the what if guy, because like y'all saw me standing over there when he was. I was like, hey man, but maybe we should talk about that, right? But he's taught me to be like more like ambitious and audacious in terms like what is possible, and like that's exciting to me, because now I'm applying that not just to like how do we do well for the business, but like how can we do good for the city, and like how do we be kind of radical and like what.
I'm gonna be honest with you, and it's a good point you just made about the nowadays. It's like you got to pick a side. Mm-hmm. That's modern day media. That's
a fact. Yeah, that's a good point.
Where back in the day, think about it. When it was Sixers news, you had Howard Eskin, you had Stephen A. Smith. These was where you got your talking points from.
Yeah,
but
back
now,
when Stephen A. Smith with the Inquirer.
Right. But what happens is, any Big Dan could get on Instagram and be like, 76Place, what we thinking? Let's argue. And the comments
go crazy.
It's 50,000 people just saying shit. Where it's like no one knows what they talking about.
Yeah.
So that's like modern day media that pushes these dumb narratives.
Yeah.
Because I refuse to believe that 27 other cities went through that. Like Boston putting a TD Garden over top of a train center. Yeah. You don't think that caused chaos for the beginning of it, but now it's like, oh, let's catch the train to the game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's an everybody wins scenario. Once you really flesh it out.
Yeah, once
right.
and
you get past the visceral part in the beginning, and then you really think about it, and you go through all of the initiatives, all of the give back, all of the economic impact, and you're like, oh, everybody actually wins in this scenario.
Yeah. Straight up. So I'm totally on board with that.
I also saw that the black clergy came out in support of you guys on October 17th at an event that you guys had. And then the Market East Improvement Association study said that this arena could and should be the catalyst to improving the overall standing of Market East. So you guys got the data, you got the people are mobilizing behind it. Like it's picking up a lot of steam in a short amount of time.
It is, and I think that's what things like that are what has allowed us to start to shift the conversation from like fighting for like, hey guys, let's just like give this a chance to okay, let's sit down and problem solve for like how should this actually work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we've been very hungry to get to that point, and it's kind of refreshing and relieving to be able to start to have those more productive conversations, as opposed to feeling like I got to wake up every day and fight.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's exhausting, but also it's worthwhile, because I do think that it's like there's so many times you have these big developments. And again, this is why a lot of people have skepticism about this type of thing, because a lot of times these projects do not take into consideration what can the positive impact be on a city. How can we create opportunity for Black and brown communities and communities of color? Like that's not always the priority I believe it should be, and that's why I think a lot of people have skepticism around us.
But you used a very good word when you said this pessimistic mindset, and that's because, let's be real, most of these big entities, especially when you talk about sports, normally have a disconnect to the inner city.
Or there's some form of like a Trojan horse that people worry about.
People are like, when's the other foot going to drop?
Yeah, exactly. Like waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, and I get that. Like, and I mean, like, quite frankly, and I'm like uncomfortable saying this, but like it's very rare, and this is more credit to the organization than anybody. It's very rare that there's somebody like me who's sitting with a direct line to ownership and reports right into the CEO to put these things into place. And it's only after I'm able to spend time with people. I had a briefing with a number of stakeholders that an elected official wanted us to meet with to talk about the project so they could get educated on it. And they're like, they said, like, this sounds good, but like, because it was just me doing the briefing. And they were like, but like, you're the diversity guy, so like, do you really have like pull? Like, do you really have like weight? Yeah. And they're like, because we're used to like people just throwing the black guy at us, and it's just like window dressing. I was like, look, it's a great question. I ran down everything I just told you guys. I was like, look, I speak to ownership, like for better or worse, like every day. Like I probably either call or text DA like every day about something, right? And I talked about all the things we've done as an organization. I talked about the Buy Black program. They're like, thank you for sharing that, because now we like we're in, like we get it. You know what I mean? Like it's not bullshit. But unfortunately, so often people who look like us are just put in these positions just to placate certain people.
Right.
And so I also understand that that's something that we have to get over because unfortunately not a lot of people are given the resources and sort of like the influence in the organization to put some things in place that are actually going to make a difference.
Yeah.
No, that's real, man.
Yeah.
Last couple questions and we can wrap. The $20 million commitment to racial equity, in your role, how do you decide how and where that money is spent?
Yeah.
And what specific external opportunities that the organization should get involved in?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So that $20 million is broken down in a few different buckets. So 10 of that is going to the NBA Foundation because in 2020 the NBA Creator Foundation focused on Black economic opportunity. And so every team's kicking in $10 million. So that's half of our commitment. The other 10 is there's a chunk of it that goes to our youth foundations for the Sixers and the Devils, and they're focused on youth development opportunities in our communities. Newark, which is a predominantly Black city, and in Philadelphia and the greater Philadelphia area. So our foundation directors lead that. A big chunk of that is the Buy Black program because we're actually we didn't get into this, but we're actually donating millions of dollars in marketing assets to those businesses, right? That's how big of a deal it is, right? Like millions of dollars that we otherwise could monetize with other partners, we're giving it to Black-owned business. And then there's another piece of it, which is more so around community development, and that's the piece that's most really discretionary for me. And so I'll give you one example of it'll be public by the time this airs, but there's two projects there that I'd highlight. One is we're making a donation to an organization that actually takes families who are living in Section 8 housing, and they are essentially they're building new housing for them, and then they've created this financial product so you can actually use your Section 8 voucher as your mortgage payment. So you actually are creating wealth for predominantly Black people and Black families by going from being on like public assistance and just using rent because when you're renting you just flush your money down the toilet. You're not creating
like
any
ownership
wealth.
of a home.
So like ownership of a home. That's
and
now
building,
your asset.
which is the best type of credit you can have, which is any
You
type
can
of
borrow against it.
real
you can,
estate related credit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we're
Y'all knock out 4 years of these payments. You pull 20,000 out of equity. Yeah.
So like that's an example of a program that we're funding through the commitment.
Yeah, that's dope.
Another thing that we're funding through commitment, which is related to the arena, is the creation of an organization called Everybody Builds, which is again this is credit to DA. But one of the things that we're concerned about with the arena is too often when you have these big, real estate projects, Philly is a union town, and the construction industry doesn't really reflect the racial diversity of our city. This is very true. Both from a contractor standpoint and also from a workforce standpoint.
I spoke to Catherine Gilmore Richardson about that recently.
Yeah, this is something that she's super passionate about, right?
Shout out to Kathy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so part of the problem you have with that is the construction industry is very unique in that it's like project based, right? Like you don't have a salary when you're working. It's like you get work on a job and you work on that job from the first day to that job's over, and you got to find the next job, right? Problem for minority companies, which unfortunately tend to be smaller, is when you have these big construction projects, elected officials, rightfully so, are like, you need to figure out a way to get diversity on the project. So contractors, developers, find these small minority contractors, and best case scenario, you get, let's say, like a small electrician, you get work on this big, let's say like hospital. Maybe it's the biggest contract you ever got. Best case scenario, you get a temporary bump in your bottom line, but when that project is over, if you don't have the next big project to go to, you're right back to where you started doing these little, small jobs. Or what happens is you may overextend yourself and try to do too much, and either you're investing in additional equipment, materials, whatever it may be, you're bringing on additional staff, but because in the construction industry, it could take you 60, 90 days to get paid. Right. All of a sudden, you don't have the money in your bank account to put
to
to
float
put
that
out.
project
Yeah.
to get you through it.
And so like you go under, or you can't pay your workers or your contractors or your subs, and that hurts your reputation in your business. And we've seen a lot of minority-owned businesses like go under just trying to work on these big projects. So, and the last thing is contractors would be like, you know what? They go back to elected officials, like I can't find anybody that has the experience or the qualifications. So 2 years ago, so this is like a year and a half before we even announced 76Place, DA and I convened a bunch of labor leaders, developers, and like the big eds and meds and general contractors. We got them in a room and we said, hey guys, we're always the villain in this scenario. We're always the ones who get blamed. And so we need to figure out a way to get around this and get away from this like project-based approach to diversity. And so the idea is that if you can string together, because there's a ton of construction going on in the city, if you can coordinate better among the people who are like controlling the projects and identify a cohort of contractors, you can cycle them between different projects so they have greater certainty of runway of work. And then you give them access to capital, you give them technical assistance to help them grow their business. And so that's a way to actually grow the capacity in the industry. And from my standpoint, by the time we break ground in 26, 27, 28, now all of a sudden I have more people that we can put to work because they have the experience and they have greater capacity. And so it's a long way saying we put $300,000 into creating this new organization that's focused on doing that in partnership with folks like Ryan Boyer, the head of the Building Trades Council.
Shout out to Ryan.
Shout out to Ryan Boyer too, man.
Yep. The Carpenters.
Hey, yo, Philly really is 1
small.
degree every. It's crazy.
And either you're in or you're out.
Real talk.
Like if you ain't in, what'd you say? You a Fed?
Hey, man. Chad said that. We had a conversation a couple weeks ago. It's like if you in Philadelphia and you like 37
Nobody ever heard you?
and no one has any ties to anything.
Something's up.
No, nobody from school. Nobody just like.
Yeah, nobody got no rec center pictures, YMCA pictures with you or nothing. Like
Something's up.
Nah, can I get 2 weeds, please?
You a creative player.
Creative player.
Straight up.
You are a creative player.
But so that's like, but that's an example of like a program we're putting together to make sure this project is different than others.
Yeah.
But also like that $20 million commitment has created resources that allows us to put those things together and sort of get them off the ground.
Amazing work. All amazing. I just missed you by a few seconds, but you were at the One Club for Creativities where all the Black People Conference. Why is it important for the Sixers to have a presence at events like that to connect and empower Black creatives and executives?
So actually, first of all, we're gonna have to do like a 6 degrees of like TRPE because I missed you, but you know who I ran into there? Was JP.
JP, yeah, that's what I was with.
Yeah, exactly. And JP, shout out JP, shout out 14th and Market, because 14th and Market actually did the promo video when we launched Buy Black the first year.
Oh, wow.
Yo, Philly is crazy, man.
And Paul Beckles, who I told my boy works at Nike, he's the one who connected me with JP.
Because JP deals with
White and Kennedy, who have the Nike account.
They know each other from back in the day from like Southwest. And
Goodness
now they
gracious.
both live out in Portland.
Portland, right.
Yeah. So now they're both, they're like the 2 Black people in Portland now.
Again, Paul, Fort 15. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy.
But so, my bad. I just think about a conference.
No, that was perfect. Why was it important for the Sixers to have a presence at something like where all the Black People Conference?
So it was, that was actually one. I think being able to talk about this work to folks who look like us is important because I recognize that like people are looking for ways to have to connect their experience to their work and how to capitalize on that and how to have the impact they want to have. So I think being able to talk, we were there to talk about the Buy Black program, and then also honestly just to like support Black spaces. And I feel like when you have companies like HBSC, we were there with our partner on the Devil's Side, Prudential, who sponsors the Buy Black program up in New Jersey. Shout out Prudential. And like to be able to have big brands like that are there to talk about their work, I think helps to legitimize places like that,
absolutely,
spaces like that. And so, one, it was a great conversation we were able to have. But two, I think again, lending our credibility and our platform and our brand, like there's tremendous value in that. So anytime we have opportunity to support, whether it's Black API, Hispanic, whatever, like it's those are things that we look for opportunities to participate in. Yeah.
You got some?
No.
Oh, okay,
I'm deep in my. I'm listening.
Last two questions. One, what does being a good corporate citizen look like to you, and how do the Sixers and HBSC execute that vision?
Damn. I mean, I would say not to like cop out, but I would say like doing all the things that like we've been talking about. Right?
Yes.
Like, and I think the best way to summarize it is, you got to move away from like there. Don't get me wrong. There is definitely a place for like turkey giveaways and backpack drives. Like that stuff means
yeah.
I like the energy.
That means something to families who need it, and we're able to give stuff away. But that also is not addressing the systemic issues that get people into those positions for why those programs mean something to them.
Yeah.
And so I think being intentional about not just that stuff, which frankly is like flashier, easier to get. You don't have to take 25 minutes to talk about everybody bills because it's complicated. You got to
exactly.
But also making sure that you are investing in things that have like are addressing more root causes. I think that's something that that more corporations have the ability to take part in. And I think it's also something that, again, back to the point Matt was making, when people see that you're actually like really about your business and you really care, and it's not just a statement that you're putting out on social media, like consumers actually take note of that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's intentionality, it's investment, and it's also empowering people in the organization that actually care and know what the hell they're doing to like sit at the big boy, big girl table.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think that's probably the best way I can summarize it.
It's been an amazing conversation.
It seems like you really enjoy.
Yeah, when I'm not getting my ass kicked in the community meetings, but no. I mean, yeah, like I would put it like this. It's funny because I would if like 10-year-old DG could like look forward 25 years and like look at me, he'd be like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that, like, cause I get to
doing that shit, bull.
Yeah, no, facts. Cause I get to do what I'm passionate about.
That pushing
like,
point shit was cool. But like,
yeah. But I also get to do it at like the Sixers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like look, I'm gonna be at work tonight, walking around the floor of the Wells Fargo Center during the Sixers game. Like that's and I'm able to have an incredible impact on my city.
I'm gonna be at work tonight too. I'm gonna be drinking reposado.
but it's like, but you can, the other thing too is that why I enjoy it is working in the nonprofit sector and working in government. Like you deal with so much bureaucracy, so much red tape.
Yep.
And right here, it's just like, hey, here's some resources. I mean, obviously, like I can't do whatever I want to do, but I have so much flexibility, and my team has so much flexibility to do what we think is going to be right for the company and right in the community. That like you don't. That's the if you're in the right organization, like that's the beauty of the corporate sector is like you have so much more autonomy and flexibility than you do in the nonprofit and public sector. So I salivated that because I was scraping around in the public sector for a while, which is a ton of people doing great work, super smart people, but it's I was fortunate to find myself in a really dope situation.
Well, I'll say, like, to wrap it, I really enjoy where y'all are going. Like, I like the energy that the Sixers are carrying forward. It seems fun. It seems legit. And, this is someone who just historically has never really been a fan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've liked players here and there, but, like, I enjoy the organization and the way y'all are moving now.
By the time 76Place is built, I'm going to get Matt to burn his leg.
Hey, man, listen, y'all give me a suite in there? Like, me and Big Dan get a barbershop in there?
Wait, no, but real talk. So in 2001, you were rooting for the Lakers over the Sixers?
We just had the conversation on our Patreon. Subscribe to the Patreon if you haven't. Patreon.com/officialtrp. Somebody asked us if you could go back in history and go to one game that you didn't attend, what would it be? And Chad said it'd be Kobe's last game. 60 points, Jazz. Yeah. And what did I say? The game when the Sixers beat the Lakers, in that game one.
And step over game.
It's just the energy that the Sixers. It's funny because Irv Gotti mentioned on Drink Champs, him and Ja were sitting because Chuck was their man. They were sitting behind the Sixers bench, and I rewatched the game recently. I'm like, oh damn, they damn sure was. It's like they were the only ones going crazy with the Sixers, and I was like, I would have been it because that game just was like I don't know what it was, but it was just the energy was just crazy.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to go into LA, we're going to beat Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah.
And that one game in a weird way was just like, you know, they got little mini chips. Like a little
mini championship.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like in that moment, Shaq was my man and Kobe was my man. But AI was just.
I mean, he was
a force of
how
nature.
you didn't feel like we want to get AI on the show. How you didn't feel AI?
Yeah, we've tried every outlet we can to get AI on the show.
But Iverson is one of them people where it's like you had to feel that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying,
dude. I'll tell you, one like there's been a couple moments since working here where I was like, it was like an out of body experience. Mm-hmm. And a little while back, we had we had like a little promo for the arena. We filmed it up in the gallery.
Okay.
And Quincy Harris was hosting, you know, QDZ.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out
QDZ. Friend to the show.
Yeah. So it was like a kind of a sports center setup. So it was Q was hosting it. It was me and DA, and it was AI. And I'm sitting up there, and I'm like, yo, I'm like really out.
Right.
Like I'm really up here, like hanging out with Allen Iverson, like dude who was playing on the Sixers when I had straight backs, when I was nappy ass braids, you know what I mean? Like it was. So just to your earlier question, like I do enjoy it because it's like I find myself in situations like that. I'm like, what is like where am I?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's how I feel about podcasts. And funny, me and Beth was talking about it. and she
Y'all here for like an hour?
Yo, me and Beth, because I was here at like 2, so me and Beth was kicking it for like a good 30 minutes, and. We were talking about like just the dynamic of me. Me and Beth did talk about a lot. We were talking about driving
Covered
the
a
bus.
lot of ground.
Beth know my story. We were talking about driving the bus as opposed to me doing a podcast, and just the level of things you can get into and the different situations. Like even the way we met Michael Nutter was just like that would have never happened with me driving the bus.
Yeah,
you understand what I'm saying? But doing this,
you met him, but he would just swipe.
Yeah,
I
met Lynn Abraham, but it's just like you 6 minutes late. You tighten that up. You know? Like that's kind of what it was. But just the things you get into and the people you meet and the hands you shake, the elbows you rub and the rooms you walk into behind doing something you, one, love and two, you're passionate about.
Yeah.
People see it and they feel it. And that's what we get with this podcast.
Now, and that's a good point because the other thing that I also want to emphasize about why like I appreciate what y'all are doing and I try to like remind myself of this and where I'm at is we also have the opportunity to show that like we belong in these spaces.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And like one of the privileges I had, which I try to like be intentional about how I show up, where like I code switch I can't not code switch because of the different worlds that I grew up in. But part of that is like I found because of where I went to school. I remember when I was at the William Penn Foundation, I'm presenting to the board and I'm like, yo, I'm really like presenting to like people who control billions of dollars. I wasn't really shook because I was around those type of people growing up. But a lot of us, like, especially depending on where we come from, like, don't have that same level of comfort. But it's not because we don't belong in those rooms. You know what I mean? And I think being able to show people, again, back to your question about where all the black people, like, being able to show people, like, no, there's a space for us here. And, like, we don't necessarily have to change who we are to be here. I think sometimes we have to force our way in, or we have to figure out how to get in there. But once you get in there, once you have the credibility, we can start to break down these barriers that people have that, like, you know, you got to act a certain way, you got to talk a certain way just to be in there.
Chad, he says like us in the political space. Like, remember we was having a conversation. Like, you always had this like look of like people in politics, like almost like some holier than thou. They don't mess with you, you don't mess with them. But then you get around them and it's just like, oh, y'all pretty all right.
Yeah.
And then we get
people,
calls and talks all the time. Like last week, we got a phone call like, yo, somebody in this space wants to talk to y'all because, you know, like y'all are bringing like a cool element to politics, especially for the younger Gen Z, millennial.
Yeah.
Like, that's dope.
Yeah.
And there's a hidden message in what you're talking about advocacy and having people that are willing to steward you through and put you in certain rooms because they know you have the talent to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And because of, you know, having good advocates and, you know, good mentors and stuff like that, you go in a room full of people that control billions of dollars and you're like, oh yeah, this ain't a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was 24, 25 probably when that happened. But like I'm only there because my boss, who was, I forget if she was running the foundation out at that point, but regardless, like brought me in. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of it is, and so I think also the responsibility we have is like how are we also looking behind us and bringing the next generation along and giving them that access too.
Absolutely. Final question. You alluded and talked about the fact that you are a C-level executive. You're in the C-suite. You have direct, levity up to, the CEO, the ownership level, and everything like that. What needs to happen the next 10 years to create a significant rise in black faces and C-level positions across all of corporate America?
Yeah, that's a great question. One is, I think, like at the ownership level, I think it's around just like creating black wealth, obviously, right? Because that's the only way you get in there. I think secondly, it is around, for those of us who are here, dropping the ladder back down and figuring out different ways that we can bring people.
Absolutely.
Like whether it's access, whether it's, just like, giving people game about, here's how you take advantage of opportunities. Here's how you should be going about your business. 3, I think it's elevating like the like Matt, to what you were just saying. I think so often we'll put people on pedestals, and so it feels like people who are up in the C-suite or are celebrities are not like they're not normal, and so it almost feels like unattainable.
Yes.
Like, well, I'll never be there because and so like normalizing and humanizing people and letting people know that like, no, you can, like, I'm just like you, or like now I'm over talking to Elton Brandon's office the other day. Like Elton's like a mentor and a friend.
I've met Elton a few times. Elton's cool as shit.
He's down to earth, like unassuming, but it's guys who I grew up playing high school, like playing AU within the NBA now. So I think making sure that we don't have that mental barrier that like that's not a place for us, that like we can't get there, or that there's something super special about somebody that gets, like, obviously you got to be talented, but you can't tell me that the underrepresentation of black people or women or people of color in these C-suite positions is because like we're not special enough. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think getting over that mental hump and sort of like having that audacity, like this is a space that I belong in, is really important. So I think all, and then there's bigger systemic things like, socioeconomic disparities and education systems, which have is another conversation. But
and that's kind of been like a constant conversation through our show now, through different people that we meet and talk to in political spaces. Now with a corporate organization is like, we have to do better by these kids and create more more earnest educational opportunities for them to be the best version of themselves. Yeah.
And also I think it's about supporting each other. Like we talked about Ryan Boyer, we talked about Jordan Harris, talk about Elton Brand. Like those are all people who like have supported me because they believe in me, but also because they know what it's like to be a black man in a space of trying to, and saying like, you know what, I'm going to help you out because I believe in you, but also because I know that like you have to deal with stuff that other people don't have to deal with.
Absolutely.
So like I'm going to make sure that I look out because I want you to get to the same place, that I'm at. So, yeah.
DG, thank you so much.
Appreciate y'all for
your
having
time today, for giving us
giving
us run of the facility, showing us around, everything like that. The entire team here, everybody was so amazing from before we even got here. Just making sure.
Beth was going through the. She's like, "Oh yeah, Michael Nutt." I'm like, "Man, let me tell you about like me and Beth was stopping.
Amazing interview today. We look forward to, doing more work, more talks and everything, around 76Place and the Sixers as all of this different stuff develops, and we appreciate you opening the doors to us today.
Man.
Yeah, straight up, man. We appreciate it. Thank you. Definitely. You got anything else you want to throw out there?
Anything you want to plug, anything that, you need people to do, we got a petition to sign, anything that's going on.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. So if, as far as the arena goes, anybody wants to learn more about the project, go to 76place.com. Yes. Also, if you want to support the project, we're probably going to be going into city council in early 24. I think there's a lot of people who look.
We definitely got to pull up.
The people who are the voices of concern and voices of opposition are always going to be the loudest, and I think that's what we've heard the most. It's not to say that those aren't legitimate, but people who think the project is a good idea, their voices matter just as much. And so, if you want to go on to 76place.com, sign a pledge and support, we'd appreciate that as well. And then lastly, I'm just going to give a plug to our Buy Black businesses, Eastside Golf, local artists and foods.
With the French toast bites.
Yes, sir.
They the guys, they had the Jordan 4s with the golf cleats, with the golf spike.
Yeah. Matter of fact, they would be great. Like, their story is crazy.
Let's hook it up. Yeah.
They golf together at Morehouse, and then and their business is taking off. Like, they're good guys.
I saw when they got the Jordan partnership though.
Yeah. And then Zenith Wealth Advisors, which is another Buy Black business that we work with. So here in Philly, so go check them out and support all of them for sure.
I'd love to have them on. Yeah, straight up, that's dope.
Yeah. TRP Nation, man, another classic episode with our guy DG. We out of here. Y'all have a great weekend or week, depending on when this is coming out. I don't know. We're going to the Sixers game.
Here we go.
Peace.
Peace.